Our next question, Jim, on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru is from Tony Barker. Watching Mid-South Wrestling from early 1984, and Carl Fergie came into the area as the King, but was soon transitioned into a referee. Did Bill Watts force Fergie into that role, or was refereeing something he wanted to partake in?
Well, he didn't necessarily go down there with the thought of being a referee, but Watts didn't force him because he went down there with the thought of partaking in a paycheck. Carl was one of the guys, they had so many guys in Memphis when Watts had come up and they did the trade with Jarrett, and Watts took me and the Midnight, Rock and Roll, Terry Taylor. Dundee was going to be the booker. There were still a bunch of guys that really didn't have, because Carl had been with us that summer in the thing we did in Georgia for Ole, right? At King Carl Fergie, because he's Lawler's cousin. Lawler gave him a crown and a fucking old cape or whatever, and to give him a gimmick to go work in the Georgia territory. Well, then there just wasn't room in Memphis when we all came back, and Dundee liked Carl. So he said, hey, I think they booked him first just to go down and take a look at him as King Carl Fergie on the TV. But since Lawler had made at least one appearance and might make a few more as part of this deal, they said, well, let's not do the King thing. And then, at that point, I think it was Ricky Ferrara they'd had as a referee. And I don't know why he wasn't there anymore. He ran a gym in Alexandria. But I don't know whether it was heat or he just quit or just didn't want, whatever the fuck, but they were short a referee and ended up bringing Carl in to referee. And he was as big as the boys. So it was good in that he could believably, physically keep order, but it was kind of not good in that you always want your referees to be littler so the guys look bigger. But so he was a big for a referee, but like Nick Patrick, because Nick started out as a wrestler. And Fergie took to it, and he did a great job. It took him a while to get used to having heat put on him as a referee, because every time I jump up and distract him for the midnight to do something, he'd like, Jimmy, don't keep me too long, my blowjobs, right? He's afraid the girls would get fucking mad at him. But no, and Carl did a good job. And I would say the way business was at that point in Mid-South, he probably was making $1,000 a week, and this was 1984 or maybe 800 or whatever, a lot of weeks, as the referee. He wouldn't have made that much if he was wrestling in Memphis. So he didn't have to take bumps.
How good was he in the ring?
As a wrestler, he was good. He knew what he was doing, and he knew how to work. He didn't have a spectacular body. He didn't do anything spectacular. He just did everything good. And he was one of those guys that would have always had a job in the territories had the territories stayed around if he wanted it. But as everything was starting to constrict, if you didn't have some outstanding characteristic, you weren't going to get a spot.